In the early 1990s, while I was serving as stake president, we had some work that needed to be done on the stained glass windows in the tabernacle. Some of them were broken and needed to be replaced. Also, we had some structural damage in the front facade of the tabernacle, and that required some extensive work to bring it up to code. And so in our application to the church for this work to be done, we proceeded to tell exactly what we needed. I received a call a short time later from one of the brethren in the church office building, and he went over and reviewed the request for repairs with us, and then he said to me at that time, "Well, I don't know if these will be approved because of the age of your building. You qualify for a replacement building, a new building. How would you feel about that?" And I said, "Well, I can speak for I think correctly for the members of the Garland stake and say that we want to keep the tabernacle building." And he went on to explain to me it was designed by the technology of the times, and it was a great old building.
We're sitting right here in what used to be their old stake president's office, where I was called in November of 1994. Up until that time, most of my family activities had all taken place here as far as blessings and ordinations and things such as this. And I remember my first memories of it when Sheila and I moved here. It's a complicated building to get to know. There were tunnels and hallways and rooms here and there, and it took a while, but after you got onto it. And it was Bailey Construction out of Wellsville that did it, and they were a good bunch to work with. And like I say, they went in and they dressed up the tabernacle and made it a little nicer with better lighting, and they made a little more room between the seats so it was a little more comfortable, and they got rid of the old radiators and things and just made it more modern. And during the construction project here, when it was about 3/4 done, and they had the elevator installed here, we got to looking at it one day and we thought, well, they'll have funeral viewings out in the Relief Society room, and then they'll go into the elevator with the coffin, but up on top we were wondering if you'd be able to make the corner and get into the tabernacle, because it looked like kind of a tight fit for a coffin, you know. And we decided there's one way to find this out. So we got a hold of Ward Taylor, and I said, "Ward, we need a favor." I said, "Get your biggest coffin and come up here sometime, and we're going to put it here and see if we'll go through there." And Ward was pretty good about it. And so I think about 10 o'clock one day, he backed up out there, and we unloaded it and came right up the tabernacle steps there. And we were all laughing while it was happening. People were going to drive by thinking, is this some kind of a practical joke, or did somebody die in there, or somebody just want their funeral before it's completed? But as it turned out, I don't even think anybody noticed it, but we had a lot of fun time in there, and the coffin, it worked and shot right through there fine, you know. So it was sad to see when they started tearing it down, and there was the old cornerstone we found, and because I just saw it out there, I thought it was just a brick on the corner, it had the date in, and Doug James, I think, was the foreman's name. And I said, "Doug, when you tear this down, just roll this over the side. I'm going to keep that as a souvenir, because, you know, everybody had been taking stuff out of it, you know." And so he rolled it over there, and then I got looking at it that next night, and this is hollow, and there was kind of a bottom in it. So I wheeled it over the kitchen and put it in there. And then a couple of days later, we got together and looked at it and opened it up. It was kind of interesting.
Well, my memories of the tabernacle is my family moved to Garland 58 years ago when we bought a home one block north of the tabernacle, so I have been closely associated with the tabernacle for nearly 60 years. President White was the stake president, and he had Spencer Kimball in his home as an apostle when President White was the stake president. And the tabernacle came into jeopardy of being torn down. And President White, by that time, President Kimball had been sustained as president of the church. And President White called him and asked him for help to protect the tabernacle, and that tearing down obviously never happened. I remember holding President White in great high regard because of his role in helping me become active in the church. And I never, ever in my wildest imagination imagined that I would one day be called to be the president of the Garland stake and sit in the chair that he had sit in. Some of my memories of my service as a stake president there is when Jeffrey R. Holland came. He didn't actually come to our stake conference, he came to Fielding's, but he was asked if he would have a fireside in the afternoon for the youth, and the youth from all 4 of the stakes at that time were invited, and I remember sitting on the stand with Linda and the rest of the stake presidents as Elder Holland was there, and how full the building was of youth. There was not an empty seat anywhere, and the youth were standing in the balcony and everywhere. And I remember thinking, I hope that the weight limits of the balcony was high enough to hold all the weight, because I was feeling like that was probably as big a crowd as it had seen in many, many years. So the tabernacle holds a great place in my heart. And I know that in the days that it was being constructed, that it wasn't only members of the church that donated to having, to help towards its construction. In those days, there wasn't funds from Salt Lake that like there are now to help buildings get built, and so the members of the area had to come up with the funding to build the churches. One story I'm aware of is that the Tazoy family donated quite a lot of money, and the Saddles did as well, and with the only stipulation that they could have their funeral in the tabernacle. And so that was granted to them, and has since come to pass. But tabernacle is a very special place. It has a spirit of its own as you walk in there when it's empty, and you see the light coming through the stained glass windows, and feel the spirit of the Lord that is there in the tabernacle. It's certainly not a temple, but it's a place where the Lord's Spirit resides and can be felt.
I think the memories that I have there back when I was a child, I should say a young man, is seminary graduation. I grew up in Tremont, and so this wasn't my building, and never got to come up here to this particular area. But they always had seminary graduation up here. You remember the picture out in front on the steps that we still do as a stake, and it was just awesome to be able to come up here and see the beauty here in this building. I feel sorry for those kids that in Tremont and the surrounding communities that don't get to come up here and partake and enjoy. And so I've learned to love the building. It's changed, and I think that the people that built this particular building need to be commended. It's just neat to realize that they knew what they were doing back then. We could learn from them again. As we get new general authorities that come up here to visit us, you know, for conferences or for whatever reason they come up for, just amazed at the beauty of the building. And we just take it for granted too often, I think.